Are dissolvable stitches used when having a cyst removed on the face? So this is a bit, so a minute ago I said we get good scars by taking the tension off by often putting deep stitches in. The face is one of those areas where I personally don't use deep stitches. Some people do, and it's not necessarily wrong to use deep stitches because, as I say, they can take the tension off the wound, which is good. The problem with deep stitches is that they can cause stitch abscesses and they can cause inflammation while they're dissolving. So the deep stitches are or the dissolvable stitches are deep underneath the skin, and while they dissolve, they can make the scar more red. It'll get to the same point, but it just makes it a bit more red when they're dissolving. And sometimes you might have seen it in sort of bigger operations like breast reductions and tummy tucks. You see little dots and little bits where the stitch kind of spits out because the body says I've had enough of it, so I've had it in for too long. So that's why personally I don't use stitches when having a cyst removed on your face, because the face tends to heal really well. So unless the skin's under a lot of tension, and for a cyst removal it shouldn't be really, because a cyst is a subcutaneous lesion, so there isn't really skin involved when you have a cyst removal. So you don't usually tend to remove much skin. Sometimes you need to remove a bit of skin if the cyst has tented up the skin and sort of stretched the skin. You don't want to have loads of baggy skin left, but you're literally just removing the skin just to make it sit flat. You don't have to remove skin in the same way you would if it was a cutaneous lesion like a mole or something like that, something in the skin. You're actually removing the skin is the surgery, but this is subcutaneous. So the point is that the wound won't be under quite as much tension as it would be if it was a cutaneous lesion, if it was a mole or something like that. And you're actually removing skin, it will be closed tighter. So that's, maybe people will be more inclined to think about dissolvable sutures in those circumstances. But a cyst, usually not, but not unheard of and not unreasonable. The problem with this sort of stuff is that I'm saying what I do. There are people out there who do use dissolvable sutures on the face for that very reason, to take the tension off. So there's pros and cons with it. As I say, I'm kind of more on the avoiding it if I can, but there's no answers to this stuff. It's all kind of opinion, but I wouldn't say it's as common, certainly not as common as other parts of the body. And the other, when thinking about it now, this question talking about the stitches in the skin to be removed? Because I'm talking about stitches underneath to take the tension off. So usually on the face, we use non-dissolvable sutures, which need to be removed a week later. Again, because the dissolvable ones go red, and also the dissolvable ones is unpredictable how long they'll take to dissolve. And if they take a bit longer to dissolve, you can get little dots at either side of the scar, forming what's called stitch marks. And so if you use non-dissolvable sutures, then you can say, look, come back in a week, come back in 5 days, we'll take those stitches out, and they're gone by then. So there's less risk of leaving stitch marks. So again, personally, I tend not to use dissolvable sutures in the skin to close the skin of the face. I use stitches that need to be removed. The only exception would be someone who's the scalp, where the stitch marks don't matter. Places like behind the ear, earlobe, I still use dissolvable stitches where it's quite fiddly and little stitch marks don't matter so much. But the other example would be children or people who are really don't want to have the stitches removed for whatever reason. Then you can use dissolvable stitches on the face, but they do run the risk of potentially causing stitch marks and potentially causing a slightly more red scar than would have been used if non-dissolvable sutures would have been used.